Jehan is one of my oldest friends. He's done very well for himself. He's a dermatologist and he's keen on art. On Monday, I went to see the painting. Jehan had actually got a hold of it on the Saturday, but he's been lusting after it for several months. This white painting with white lines. Hi, my name is Chamat Arambavela and I'm playing the role of Mark for Art by Yasmina Reza, directed by Steve Della Silva, produced by the Broken Leg Theatre Company, and we'll be on boards at the Lionel Wendt Theatre on the 25th to the 27th of March.
And then what happened?
Then nothing's been resolved. I mean, drama which I'm in cut short because I was late.
Why do you let yourself be pushed around by all these women?
Why do I let myself be pushed around? I don't know, Masan, they're all insane.
You lost weight also?
Of course I have. 4 kilos, purely through stress. Hi, my name is Lihan Mendes. I've been an actor for the past 6 years, having worked with a couple of theatre companies, most recently Mind Adventures with Tracy Holsinger, where I used to be the company manager.
Hi, I'm Shanak Amarasinghe and I was one of the original members of Broken Leg Theatre Company, BLTC as it's known. It's not Baked Lettuce Tomato, but it's Broken Leg Theatre Company. And at the time we started off with my dear friend Delon Veerasinghe and Anita Selvaraja. We all had knee injuries or some differing injuries, so we thought we'd pun on break a leg and the fact that we were all injured, and it became the Broken Leg Theatre Company. Anita has since moved to the UK, and Delon is doing his own production stuff, so he's not part of us anymore. So I've carried on with the name, with their approval, of course. And we managed to do 4 productions now, or 3.5. This will hopefully be the 4th. And it's been 10 years since we started out. 2011 was the first production of Art, which we did with again with my really good friends Jehan Mendes and Adam Smith. Unfortunately, everyone who seems to quit Broken Leg Theatre Company seems to find greener pastures and go abroad. So Jehan now lives in the UK. Adam now lives very far away in the Falkland Islands. So they are unable to join us on this 10th anniversary production, but it's been a superb journey having Chamat Arambavela and Lihan Mendes on board, because it's given a whole new different complexion to this production of Art from the first one as well. And I think we self-directed that the first time. This time we've learned from that mistake, and we've got probably who I personally feel is probably the best theatre director that I have ever worked with, that Sri Lankan English theatre has seen in the last few decades, Steve Della Silva, on board. And he's a dear friend, and I pestered him for many years, 14 years in fact, to come and do a play, and I finally managed to get him to do it. So that is something that I'm really proud about. So more than actually playing this part or putting this production on the boards, I'm really happy that Steve has managed to come back to the Lionel Wendt Theatre after a lapse of many, many years. So that's really, I think, for me, the piece de resistance of this play, and that's what I'm really looking forward to see what he does with this script, which we couldn't manage ourselves when we did it in 2011. So that's something that you guys also will be looking forward to. The last time many of you
Here, read Seneca.
Divita Beta.
Beata.
On a happy life. What's he suggest?
It's a masterpiece.
He hasn't read it.
No, but Jehan just told me it was a masterpiece.
I told you it was a masterpiece because it is a masterpiece.
Quite.
It is a masterpiece.
Were you getting annoyed?
I'm not getting annoyed, but you seem to be suggesting that I use the word masterpiece at the slightest possible excuse.
Not at all.
Yes, you said the word in a kind of a sarcastic way.
Not at all.
Yes, the word masterpiece, you said it in a kind of
Majan, is he gone crazy? Not at all. To give you a little bit of background about how I got into theatre, firstly, I think it's obviously through school, which is there's a really rich vein of theatre in school when we were growing up at DS Lanaka College. I got into Shakespeare drama competition, as we all do in that time, and then moved on to doing theatre outside of school, largely with Stage Light and Magic, which is a theatre company that I'm a part of. And then the last 5 years I've been in London, and I've done some amateur theatre and some paid work, both in screen and theatre in London. And this is the first production I'm doing back in Sri Lanka, and I'm really excited to get back on the Wendt and to do a production here again.
The role that I'm playing, which is Ian, originally in the script Ivan, it's not really a character that I originally resonated with, but through the process of the last 3 months with Steve's direction, we're working with these other actors, it's become a very, very interesting role to play, and it is also definitely challenging. But of course, playing these challenging roles, it's always made easier by working with a group of actors and working with the director who, make exceptions when you're having bad days, at the same time encourage you on your good days. And it's been tremendously exciting and invigorating to be a part of this. Sure enough, COVID, and all of the things that happened last year have slowed theatre down tremendously and slowed it down to a halt, and it is exciting being a part of the first English play on the boards at the Went since February last year, I believe.
Coming to the actual play, Art is a small play, which is why we also chose it, quite apart from it being our original production, which we wanted to do at the 10th year. We thought maybe revisit Art, because during COVID times, it was a little difficult to get a full cast together, maybe 10, 12 people. That would have been a little difficult for us to manage rehearsals. So Chamat and I basically live by ourselves. Lihan lives with a younger family. He doesn't need to engage too much with older people. So we thought, okay, this is going to be a safe play for us to rehearse, which is part of the reason why we started that process. And then, of course, we've been doing outdoor rehearsals all the way out in Puttalam with Steve. It's been a fantastic journey in that sense, both literally and metaphorically, being out of our comfort zones, having to live together, sleeping in a tiny bed with 2 6'4" guys. And it's been a real learning experience.
But however, when you use the word Macha, you qualified it by saying incredibly modern.
So?
You said modern as if modern was the highest compliment you could give. As if when describing something, you couldn't think of anything more admirable, more profoundly admirable than modern.
All right. So
nothing. Please note I made no mention of the word incredibly. Incredibly modern.
You're really needling me today.
No, I'm not. Art was written by a French playwright called Yasmina Reza and has been translated, we're using the translation by Christopher Hampton. It's an award-winning play and focuses largely on the relationship between 3 really old friends, people who've been friends for over 15 years, and how their friendship disintegrates almost over an act that one of their friends have done. And in this case, it's buying a piece of modern art. And Yasmina Reza's style really has a lot to do with kind of the introspection of male relationships, I think, because it's very important in this of how fragile male relationships can be, because of they're pretty much built on nothing apart from a bit of camaraderie and lots of basic surface level emotions and nothing really deep, and how brittle some of those relationships can be. And Reza plays really well with showing how when something happens to change the status quo, how everything kind of blows out of proportion. And it's a short 1.5 hour play at most, which it's funny, but also if you sit back and you look at the whole play, you'll see that it's a strong indictment on kind of relationships and how they're formed, and how codependence on friends is never a good way to kind of build anything.
As I said earlier, I was very excited to work with Steve, and I didn't quite realize that it would come to me also getting involved quite heavily with producing the play, and of course working with a former TV commercial director and also a theatre director. It can be quite intimidating, but he is such a lovely person to work with creatively, and it's been very easy because you're working with a director who really knows what he wants, but at the same time can create a lovely space for you to bring in your suggestions, bring in what you feel would work. And it's just lovely to work with a director who knows what he wants and also really knows the actors he's working with and the team that he's working with.
Cast living together quite literally has brought out quite a few additional dimensions. Spending a lot of time in the car together in an enclosed space as well has brought in several dimensions to this play. And given that it's a play about friendship, about male friendships, about three guys coming together and how their dynamics involve each other, I think this process is as close to method acting as we could have done. So I'm sure there might be a few people back in the old Stanislavski method who would have really loved what we have been doing with this play.
And I tell myself, this is a cry for help. Must help Mark if it's the last thing I do. In fact, the other day, I discussed you both with CastJet.
You discussed us with your shrink?
I discussed everything with CastJet.
Why exactly were you discussing us?
I forbid you to discuss me with that fellow.
You are in no position to forbid me anything.
Why were you discussing us?
I knew your relationship was under strain and I wanted CastJet to explain.
And what did the fellow say?
He said something rather amusing.
Oh, what? They're allowed to give their opinions
No,
now?
they never give their opinions, but this time he did. Macha, he even made a gesture. He's always so did I sometimes tell him, God sake, we need to move around.
What did he say?
Who cares what he said?
I want to know what he said,
What
alright?
possible interest could we have in what he said?
I want to know what he said, alright? God.
So to tell you a little bit about Mark, which is the character that I'm playing for art. Mark is one of the friends in the play of the three friends, and he is very much a black and white person. He's very opinionated, pompous in a certain way, if you say. He's called by his friends themselves as to be a new style intellectual, an enemy of modernism, and also somewhat breathtakingly arrogant, which is what his best friend calls him when he's not in the room. So, and from my point of view, Mark's a person that we see quite a bit around in Sri Lanka. Just think of a grad who went to like an engineering university, has a certain idea of how the world moves. It's very like I said, black or white, very opinionated in his ideas, in his thoughts, and how he thinks the world should be like. And when something happens to question that, Mark doesn't have the ability to handle it well at all, and therefore he descends into finger pointing, into getting angry, getting upset, and getting thrown off because his established relationships, which he thinks he's in control of, are no longer that. And Mark, as a very myopic person, can't deal with it that well.
The commute of this 4 days to Puttalam, 3 days in Colombo, all of that is made overwhelmingly, or rather, it's made so much more easier working with, two chaps and also a director who is very understanding of these constraints and also understanding of what your capabilities are in a limited time, in also such a time as this. So it's been great.
In terms of my character, I played Sir Ivan in the original production of Art, but this time moved characters a little bit just to try something new. So I'm playing Shehan, and he's the guy who actually buys the painting, which causes the whole problem in the first place. So Shehan is keen on art, and then he goes out and buys this white painting, which Mark thinks is completely ridiculous. Ian comes along and he agrees first with Shehan, then agrees with Mark. So that's when things get a little tense for the friends. It's a very interesting character in the sense that I'm trying to see how easy or difficult it is to pretend one thing on stage while actually feeling another thing on stage as well. When you're acting, you're used to maybe portraying a particular emotion, but it's been quite hard to portray an emotion while having to feel something else within the same character. So that's something I'm really looking forward to. Steve is pushing us all to really get the characters down pat and make sure that the audience sees exactly how much depth these characters have and what they're struggling with on the inside as well. So that's been a very interesting process for me.
You think this painting is not white, Ian?
Not entirely, no?
Ah. Then what color is it?
So various colors. There's some yellow, some grey, some slightly ochreish lines.
And you're moved by these colors.
Yes, I'm moved by these colors.
You have no substance, Ian. You're flabby, you're an amoeba.
Why are you attacking Ian like this?
Because he's a that's why. So the story behind doing art the way that we've done it is a really interesting one. So Shanika's been talking about doing this play for a while. He's part of the Broken Leg Theatre Company and also one of my close friends, and also plays the role of Shehan in the play. Shanika was adamant that we convince our director Steve De La Silva, who hasn't directed a play in Colombo, I think, for over 14 years. His last play was Ekus, which was really well received in Colombo, and then he now lives in Putnam.
As the de facto kind of head of BLTC, the Broken Leg Theatre Company, we've got this production going, and in COVID times it's been really difficult. Corporate sponsorships earlier were quite difficult for the arts to start off with, but in these COVID times people have been really reluctant to put their hands in their pockets, and I guess we have to understand that on one aspect. In terms of revenue as well, theatre sizes have dramatically reduced, so the Lionel Went, which could host about 650 people almost, now it's down to 200 people, so ticket revenue is going to be impacted as well. So I guess this is the new normal we don't know how long it's going to last, but this is what we're faced with in the production process. Also, Steve being in Putnam, that's been a really interesting one to do for us as well, managing those remote locations. But we've done our best. The ticketing process is also a little different because we need to know who's sitting in which seats and things like that. We've marked out the box plan, COVID controlled seats, all of that sort of thing. So it's been a steep learning curve for us. We're the first English theatre production back at the Went in a year. So we're keen to get that all right, and not just the play, but also the production process, everything around it. So let's see, we're fingers crossed.
I'll read it to you. If I'm who I am because I'm who I am, and you're who you are because you're who you are, then I'm who I am and you're who you are. If, on the other hand, I'm who I am because you're who you are, and you're who you are because I'm who I am, then I'm not who I am and you're not who you are. You can see why I'd write it down. No?
So art will be on boards at the Lionel Went Theatre.
Directed by Steve De La Silva, will be on the boards at the Went on the 25th, 26th and 27th of March.
And we'll have 2 shows on Friday, 2 shows on Saturday at 5 p.m. and 8 p.m.
On Friday and on Saturday, we have a matinee show at 5 as well. So 5 shows in total.
For tickets, please email brokenleg.lk@gmail.com.
Or you can call or message Seshan on 077 868 7281.
I hope to see you all there, and I hope you enjoy what you're going to put out for you.
What's gotten into you?
How could you, Machanga? How could you? And in front of me? In front of me, Ian?
What do you mean in front of you? No, what do you mean in front of you? I find these colors touching. It's all the same to you. Stop wanting to control everything.
How can you say in front of me that you find these colors touching me?
Because it's the truth.
The truth?
Yeah.
You find these colors touching?
I find these colors touching.
You find these colors touching?
He finds these colors touching. He's perfectly entitled to.
No, he's not entitled to.
I'm not entitled to.
He is not entitled to.
What do you mean he's not entitled to? I don't think you're very well. You better go and see someone.
He's not entitled to say he finds these colors touching because he doesn't.
I don't find these colors touching.
There are no colors. Ian, you can't see them and you don't find them touching.
Speak for yourself.
And finally, a massive shout out to everybody at Hi TV and at Curtain Call. Love the work you guys do and love the fact that you let us kind of get on your show.
This Curtain Call has really been something that has propelled productions forward in terms of publicity, and we are really grateful.
In terms of gratitude, I think we're really grateful to Steve for coming on board, and despite all his misgivings, having to deal with our dramas, he's managed to put this production together and got us this far, and we're really hoping to make him proud on stage. We are very happy with all our sponsors, all our generous donors who've come forward, people helping us in a personal capacity. You know who you are, and very thankful lastly, but definitely not the least, for Hi TV's Curtain Call for featuring us today. We couldn't have done it without our media's friends in the media, so we're really happy to be here. As far as I'm concerned, it's not white. When I say as far as I'm concerned, what I mean is objectively. Objectively speaking, it's not white. It's got a white background and a whole range of greys. It's even got some red in it. I wouldn't like it if it was white.